You're listening to the ADHD and Me podcast. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jen, and we're so excited to share the strategies we've learned while navigating life as neurodivergents.
Each week, we'll discuss topics such as relationships, careers, mental health, and a lot more.
You'll get two unique perspectives on life's challenges, successes, and everything in between.
So without further ado, here's this week's episode. Welcome back to the ADHD and Me podcast. My name is Joe.
And I'm Jen.
And we're here for Your Life is a Video Game Part 3.
Finally.
As you know, we had a bit of a detour last week.
It was a fun detour.
It was fun. I had a great time answering those questions.
Yeah.
But before we jump into the nitty gritty of Part 3, I figured let's do a little life updates. Let's talk about what's been going on. So I installed something that I've been putting off for a few months. So if you've been a frequent listener, you know we talk about mods, right?
Yeah.
Part 1 was how can we modify our lives to make it a little easier? So we ordered this mouthwash dispenser that's really cool. I didn't know how cool it was until I set it up, but it's been sitting in the box for a few months.
But I got it because he was frequently using the mouthwash, and he was able to have it and drink it from the cap. That grosses me out. I don't like that. I want a fresh cap. I don't want amoebas. So with this, it came with every color-coded cups, and they're magnetic, and you can rinse them. So he has his gray cup, I have my white cup, and you just magnetically put it on the thing, and it automatically dispenses. I felt like we were in Back to the Future or something.
Yeah, you've got 3 different dispensing sizes of the liquids, and then when the cup goes on there and it magnetizes in the right spot, it activates pouring. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm glad that I finally did it.
I'm glad too. And
that's one of those things where there's really no rhyme or reason why I procrastinated that long. However, there was a lull where I had to do a required update on my computer, and it said it was going to take 10 minutes. So then I
strategically put it in his office on his keyboard because it was so long. It was getting dusty. And so I was like, I'm going to put it on his keyboard to see if he notices.
So that was one positive. So as you know, last week we had a little bit of an audible because our daughter was sick.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that led to us not being able to attend our nephew's christening, which really stinks, but we didn't want any contagiousness to happen.
Keep them safe.
So that was a bit of a bummer.
There's a few funny stories I want to talk about.
Okay.
So one of them, I don't know if we've mentioned this, but we like to go on long walks, and that's why we came up with this podcast in the first place, is due to our long walks and talks. And our neighbors are so nice, but they are very... what's a word? Well, a nice word for nosy.
So they're very retired, and since they're very retired, they're very observant individuals.
Yes.
So we have the best neighbors.
They are great.
Thank God, when we moved in, every neighbor that we have around us is fantastic.
Yeah.
But most of them are either retired or about to be, and they're in, our parents' generation. They're very observant of our comings and goings. They know. They just observe when we get landscaping done, when things happen.
They're not afraid to talk about it.
Yeah,
we finally got the land landscaped, and they're
that was last summer,
Yeah, they're like, oh, I see you finally did some spring cleaning. But it was just funny. The recent conversation we had with him was just like,
oh, we noticed you have friends over usually on this certain day and this certain time.
He's like, we've called it the Friday night folly. It was really funny that they're watching us through the windows. So if you have any neighbors like that,
they're most likely watching and taking a log down.
Yeah. And then I have another funny update that happened this week that made me crack up. Was we have a system with money, because with my ADHD, and if you can relate to this, we're not great with money. Money is just... the plastic card is magic to us. It's not like actual money's coming out because it's just a plastic card. It's not real money. And so that's been a struggle of ours because with his OCPD, they have a miserly spending habit. So like if he has holes in his undies, he's getting fabric and sewing those holes.
No, I've never sold holes.
But you got fabric for your holy...
No, I did get patch for my favorite jeans. But besides being Marsley, usually one person in the relationship has to keep track of the finances. So obviously, naturally, that's me, the organized one.
But if I wanted to and I was good at finances, bet your bottom dollar he wouldn't let me see that spreadsheet or control the finances.
If she wanted to put some new formulas in that spreadsheet, oh boy,
are you joking
I'd
me?
be excited.
If I took over, you would not let me. Anyway, so basically the system is that like, okay, in order for me to realize that my money is actual money, I need to have physical cash. And so whenever I buy something, I hand him the cash like it's Monopoly.
Yeah, so she takes out her cash, that what she wants to spend each month.
And I'm like,
and then whenever she buys something online or somewhere else, she then gives me the cash.
Just online, because it's if it's in person, I would just pay with the cash. But
tell the front
so
story.
There was a sale on Steam, and that's like a program where you can buy games and play on your PC. And so it was a big sale, and so I guess I don't know. At first, I put money on his desk because I bought something else with my money, and I put it like right on his keyboard, like I was paying.
I was not there. Yeah.
He was not there, and so like I just sneakily just like took my money out and just put it on his keyboard. And I'm like, here you go, like making my payment or whatever. And then I was walking down the hallway because I didn't tell him that I was buying more things and I bought a bunch of games because they were all on sale, big discounts. So excited, and so I just like I bought it, and then I got my cash, and I was like slowly like creeping down the hallway. This is at night, and he's downstairs, and I'm like getting my money, and I'm going to put it on the desk as if I didn't make 2 purchases that day.
But it's your money. But
no, I know.
The funny thing is you're tiptoeing because it's your money. But yes, finish the story.
So all of a sudden, I'm about to reach his office, and he comes down the hallway, and we both look at each other, and I'm like, and it's like that, like he looked at him, and she looked at me.
And he started... And I don't know, we just both laughed. We were cracking up.
Because I just was standing there with like my money ready to like put it on his desk like a little squirrel. He's like, what are you doing? I was like,
why are you creeping down the hallway?
I bought some games tonight. And I was hoping you wouldn't notice.
It's so funny.
But yeah, so those are the funny little updates and stories. And in case you're wondering or watching this, I am holding a book bean. It's in the shape of a bean, and it's for my books, but I also hold it like an emotional support pillow.
Please confess and tell the listeners and viewers how many beans we have in our bed.
We got 3 beans in our bed.
We got 3 of these book beans.
But don't call me a beanhead.
She might as well just buy a body pillow at this point.
No.
She's got 3 book beans.
One for my head and one for my legs, and then one for my hugging.
Soon you're gonna need a backup bean somewhere.
Yeah. But I must warn you guys ahead of time, if I'm a little bit loopy, if I'm a little bit unhinged, if I'm like all over the place, it's late at night. We've had a week, and I'm barely functioning right now.
Yeah, we're trying to get back on track because we had, the week of our daughter being home and being sick and having to rearrange schedules.
Yeah.
And as you know, that derails things and further delay things. So it takes a little bit to get back on track.
And the timing was impeccable because I also have PCOS. So I was having really big PCOS symptoms the same week. So
not fun.
It was not fun, but let's get into it. So today we're going to be discussing glitches, quick saves, and crashes, and how to navigate life's obstacles, just like in a video game, like how video games have glitches and it's either funny or frustrating. There are things in life that can be considered a glitch that aren't like detrimental to your life, but they are annoying. So we're going to discuss that. And I had a glitch happen in Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and I thought it was really funny. It was towards like the end of the game, and all of a sudden, none of the NPCs had clothes. Like they were deleted just in the center, like the center of their body. And so there's a character named Withers, and he's like a skeleton, like a wise skeleton man. And he's just like in his like robe, but the middle of the robe is gone, and he's just like a naked little skeleton. And I thought it was so funny. He's just like a bag of bones.
That's bizarre.
And another glitch in that game was a mod that I had added, which was like a pretty hair mod, and like the face is a mod as well. And so I guess it glitched out. And so the head and the hair separated, but they were bobbing next to each other. So like the head was like a foot forward and the hair was a foot back. And I was just like, it was just, those types of glitches are just like funny and silly. And sometimes things, you know, in our life can happen that are just like, that was weird. Or yeah.
And then there's other glitches that can be very frustrating.
Yes.
And it can be frustrating to a certain degree to different people. So, for example, one that we wrote down was the Chipotle glitch.
Chipotle incident of 2024.
So this is a glitch that may have not made anyone get too angry or upset. But for me, it's like, this is a glitch that heightened many emotions. So
he was angry.
We were very hungry.
But he looked good. I don't know why, but when he has an angry face, I'm into it.
We were very hungry. It was dinner time. And we decided to go to the Chipotle. So I put in an order. So listen, a couple of Chipotle insider tips. You got to be using the app. Rewards points are fantastic. But the other thing is...
It's not an ad.
If you want to get the quesadilla, which Jen wants to get...
I love the quesadilla.
You cannot order that in store. You have to order ahead of time via the app. I'm assuming it has to do because it's a time-consuming process, but I digress.
The panini press.
So we order Jen's... quesadilla. We order my bowl, and we order a side of guac and chips, because how can you go to Chipotle without the guac and chips? So I get there, and of course, I timed it perfectly. I got in the app, I put in the order, and I timed it perfectly so that the moment I pulled up, it would be sitting there on the little pickup area. And it did. It was fantastic. I was just in the zone, right? So that I come in, I go to the little pickup area, I see the bag, and my spidey senses are heightened. I'm like, this bag looks tiny.
That's weird of you, because you usually don't have the spidey sense. You come home and we have like weird orders.
Yeah, I think with drive-thrus is different, right? I just grab the bag without looking and chuck it in the passenger seat. Where in this one, I still had to go inside. Yeah, so I go in there, I grab the bag, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It's very light. I'm like, I don't understand. So I open the bag. There's no quesadilla at all. There's no chips. There's no guac. There is a bowl, which I was like, okay, my bowl's there. But then there was a burrito. So this is like a completely wrong order.
Yeah.
I go to the employee. The employee's like, you sure you sure you're at the right place? You sure you didn't order the wrong thing? And I'm just like, do you not know me? Do I
not know who I am?
Do I gotta
I have a walking algorithm.
So then I show her, and she was like, oh, and then she opens up like 2 other bags. This person like messed up 3 different orders and put things like randomly 3 different bags, which is fine. I'm kind of like, appreciate it. Like, let me help. She want to get a bigger bag? Great. She puts in there. I come home.
Your hand acting is amazing.
I know. I'm doing a lot of hand movements. So I come home and I'm like, Jen, you're not going to believe this. Our order was in like 3 different bags, but I'm like,
whole big story.
I'm like, I sorted it all out. I'm the hero. Good. I'm the hero of the story.
Yes.
So I get Jen her quesadilla. There it is. We got the chips and guac out. No problem. I'm so hungry. I sit down. I open the bowl. It's not my bowl.
Yeah.
It's not even close to my bowl. I
heard the devastation.
It
felt so bad.
It was such a opposite bowl of what I would have gotten. But I tried for like the first minute to eat it, and I couldn't.
What made it bad? I don't understand. A bowl is a bowl.
It can't even explain it. The globs.
Globs of what?
There was like, I think this person asked for triple sour cream, triple cheese.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying, I like all the ingredients, but that's not what I get. I don't get. I have a very specific
bowl. Oh, and you
bowl.
paid for extra meat.
I paid for double chicken.
Double chicken. You didn't get that chicken.
So this glitch got me so angry. This glitch got me. I was so, and we didn't want to cook that night. The whole reason we did this is we didn't. So of course I like went through the app. I got a refund. Then I'm just like, I tried to eat it, and then Jen saw me out of the corner of her eye, and she's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm just so angry. The incompetence.
That yeah, I could tell that affected you. Like,
yes, it affected me greatly. And then I was in a very sour mood cooking my meal, and that was a glitch that kind of, maybe for someone else it would have been like, oh, that stinks, but for someone like me, like,
it's very, if anything goes
like,
wrong.
I already orchestrated this fantastic pickup order.
Yeah.
And I then, as someone who has OCPD, an OCPD person can get a little judgmental internally about, like, if someone's not doing it the way you would have done it
externally.
Yeah, but I'm saying internally and externally. But internally, I'm just like, I don't understand. How can someone do? So, long story short, I think a previous version of me would have let that glitch really affect me the whole night. But I think I had to just,
you
like,
recovered quicker than usual.
Yes, I needed to just, like, let it go, and I got a free meal for next time, and I kind of just let it go.
Which what I find hilarious is that, do you know how many times I've gotten the wrong order?
Oh, you're the queen of it.
I get the wrong order. I get the wrong coffee. Everything, for some reason, like, what was it? The one date day that we went out and we were going to have a date, right? We were just talking about it. And the first coffee I get it's undrinkable, right? And so I'm like, oh, I can't even drink this.
A couple hours later.
Like, it's okay. You know what? That's life. I'm Jen, and I get the wrong coffee all the time. And then we go to another coffee place, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to redeem myself. I'm going to get myself a nice little coffee treat, a little iced oat milk dirty chai. I get it from the coffee place. I drink it. It just tasted like a sugared donut. It was like the sweetest thing I've ever had. And I was just like, I can't even drink. And it's 2 in a row, right? But if this happened to him, he would be like on Yelp, like,
I'd be trying.
Karen level 10.
Karen level 10. Then.
Meanwhile, I'm just like, you know what? That's life. It happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So I think, like, with glitches, the main strategies are to feel your emotions.
Yeah, feel them. It's normal.
But try not to let that drive.
Let it simmer.
Yeah, try not to let it simmer, because, like, a glitch like that in the grand scheme of things is not a game crash, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Like, a game crash is something much bigger, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a bump in the road. It's a glitch. Mm-hmm. And you have to just kind of ride that wave of emotion, feel it, be okay with it, and then figure out a way to get past it.
Yeah, and here I put, in life, glitches come at you or they come from you. You can make, especially with ADHD, you make mistakes, you get hurt a lot. Like, I will always hurt myself. I forgot to put gas in my car. One time I was
I remember that.
You weren't there.
No, I remember you calling me.
I called him. I'm like, were you there? No, what was it? I forgot which road it was. It was
Nichols Road.
Nichols Road.
A very busy road.
Yeah, and so it's a very busy road, and I was at the light, the first person at the light, and then the light turned green, and you know who didn't go? Me. I was stuck at the light, and I was just like, oh, it was very scary. And of course, I forgot to put gas, like Space Cadet. Forgot wallet. How many times have I forgotten my wallet at home? Thank goodness for Apple Pay.
Oh, yeah.
That was, a godsend, Apple Pay. So when you have ADHD or OCPD, glitches occur in your life. They could be small, a little bit bigger. It depends on the person. Everything affects them differently. His order being messed up affected him a lot larger than me because I'm so used to everything being chaotic. So I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I've got another fire to handle in the other room. So what do we do when the glitches happen? And how do we change our mindset to not let it affect us as much? And I think that's really big for me because that's something that I didn't know how to do well. I couldn't regulate my emotions well. Everything, when it happened, it would happen big. And I didn't have this adaptable personality back then, because I wasn't diagnosed and I just didn't have the strategies and understanding of, how I can prevent myself from thinking that this small thing is massive.
And I think for me, it's, and I don't want to mess up this word, but it's catastrophizing is the word, is where I can catastrophize something that happens Meaning, I can react to something like a glitch as if it's the end of the world when it's actually not the end of the world. So for me, it's taking a step back and examining the situation and figuring out if like the way I'm responding is actually like the appropriate level of what actually happened, if that makes sense.
Like putting things into perspective. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I think it was the other day where he was in denial about his mood. And I was like, something's wrong. You know, I have this superpower. I know. You're like, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm acting totally normal. And I'm fine. And then what was it? Like towards the end of the day, like almost towards the end, it was like at 4:00, 5:00. I was like, you tell me right now. I know there's something wrong.
Like, list it off. List it off.
You list it out. Tell me. I know it's in there. I just wouldn't give up because I knew something was wrong. And he just doesn't like to, I guess, I don't know what the issue was, but it was like pulling teeth. And so he finally was like, all right. And he's like,
I'm like, it's A.
It's B. It's B. And he had like 6 things. D. And he like listed it all out and like vocalized everything that was going on in his head that was bothering him. And then afterwards, he's like, that actually felt good. And I'm like, you see? Like,
yeah.
If you just like name it, release it. And I think also like journaling helps with that. Just helping your mindset and just being like, you know what were the wins? What were the L's of the day? And like move on from it. There was a podcast that I was listening to. It's actually The Healthy Gamer, but he also has a YouTube channel. So he films his podcast. And he said something very interesting about problems. When we face problems, it is what we do. It's what we do with the problem that creates bigger problems. And it's so interesting. It's like if you don't properly understand how to regulate your emotions and how to handle a problem that happens to you, you can actually make it worse. And he like showed a chart and it's like all scientific. And he's like, you're like, you know what? Instead of me just feeling my emotions and letting myself feel, because we're humans, we're allowed to have emotions and be like, okay, this happened to me. That really sucked. Let me feel that. Okay, move on. Right.
Yeah.
But some people are like, no, I can't be in a bad mood. I can't feel sad. I can't cry. I can't talk about my emotions. So I'm going to do things to put me in a better mood. Right? Do all these different strategies. And what's happening? You're making it worse. And it just never stops. Just feel the wave, like in the ocean, like going, instead of going against the tide, just go with it. And then you'll eventually make it back.
So that's glitches. So let's get to quick saves. Now, quick saves and game crashes kind of go hand in hand.
What's a quick save, Joe?
Well, a quick save is something that you do, hopefully regularly, to prevent you from losing all of your game progress when a game crash happens.
F5.
So in a game, in certain games, there's a way to quick save, or if you're like an old school gamer, it's like checkpoints. You have to get to a certain checkpoint, and
when Crash Bandicoot with the C, C box,
the C box. So you get to a checkpoint, and that allows you to that. If you get game over, you could not start from the beginning. So what that really translates to in life is like, what are ways you can prepare yourself, or what are some self-care things? What are some ways you can treat yourself regularly so that when a game crash inevitably happens, because it's going to, you can be prepared to not start from the beginning. It doesn't devastate you to the point where you're like, where do I begin again?
Yeah.
Just similar in a video game. So some examples that you might do for you is like, and we've talked about this in the past, like some real practical examples. Like you mentioned journaling, therapy.
Yes.
Like it's therapy's a form of quick saving. Like I'm going to try to really work on understanding myself so that when I have a big emotional reaction, I understand why. I'm more aware of it. Like that's a big thing that I've really loved is like the awareness of therapy.
Yeah.
But a quick save also for you might be, I'm going to take a couple of walks a week. I'm going to eat right, because I know that if I don't take care of myself in that way, a game crash might happen later in life. That could be in the form of an injury, or that could be in the form of you're not taking care of yourself right and you don't have the opportunity to go play with your kids, or, there's so many different examples of this, but I'm curious, like, what are there some other quick save things that you do that's really helped you?
Yeah. Being self-aware is the first and foremost thing of just understanding everyone's different, especially with ADHD too. Like, everyone has things that trigger them differently or things that affect them differently, and just knowing what works for you and what doesn't. And when life happens, being prepared. And like, even with Joe or our daughter, I didn't understand how to handle her meltdowns. I didn't have to understand how to properly like understand why she's acting a certain way. And then I realized, oh wait, she's actually like me in a lot of ways, and I'm going to talk to her and be calm and be like, what are you feeling right now? Are you feeling overwhelmed? I'm calling things out. And she's just like, I'm like, let's do breathing exercises. Like, before, I didn't do breathing exercises with her. I didn't tell her just like, let's calm down. Let's like breathe in and out. Like, I would just be like, stop screaming. Stop doing this. Like, enough. Like, it's so dismissive, right? Like, when you're feeling your feelings as an adult, you don't want someone to come in the room and be like, enough with the crying, enough with the feeling, enough with the emotions. Just go do your homework, right? Like, just go do this. Like, no adult wants to be spoken to like that. So with your children, I had to learn, like, no, I'm not going to treat her the way that, all of us were treated growing up back in the 90s, where it was just like, just stop your, like, children were like a nuisance and didn't need to be heard. It was almost like, it's because I said so. But just being able to just treat our children like humans.
I needed a bit of a quick save tonight. If you
Which
recall.
part?
No, yeah. No. It's like I was having a frustrating time with our daughter.
Yeah.
And Jen, she didn't say like, you need a quick save, but Jen was like,
oh yeah, I kicked him
you need to get your shoes on, and you need to do a lap around the block,
walk,
and just reset yourself.
Go do a quick save right now and get fresh air, because when he's in a funk, I know that physical fitness is like, he loves it, right? So and the fact that he could get extra steps in, he feels like he's getting a mental gold star. He's like, there you go. I'm like living my best life. So if I want to go into like game crashes, like something that happened that I would consider a game crash for me was when, after I became a mom, and trigger warning on postpartum depression, but I suffered severely from postpartum depression. And that to me was a game crash. I was like, oh, like my body's completely different. I have multiple ailments. I have pain. I'm trying to regulate my emotions. I was undiagnosed ADHD, new mom. We're trying to navigate being new parents, and we're alone in the city with no family, no friends. I had no job, and I was isolated in our Queens apartment for around 8 months straight of not feeling. I think I specifically remember this because it was so interesting that I felt so trapped that one day he was like, go for a walk, like leave the house or whatever. And I think I forgot why I left, but it started to rain. And I remember feeling like so emotional that I was feeling rain on my face, because I felt like I was like trapped in like Azkaban, like I was like in a prison, and to feel human and to feel rain on my face, I started to cry out in the middle sidewalk of Queens, because I'm just like, in postpartum depression, it's already very detrimental and very sad and very like isolating. And there were just a lot of thoughts going through my head. But on top of that, to not have a support system, to not have friends and family around me to make me feel less alone, that was something that I needed. That was a quick save I didn't know I needed. That was something that if I had that, I feel like I would have been able to handle motherhood a little bit easier if I had basically been around closer to people.
Yeah, I remember specifically, it felt more than 8 months. I don't know. Yeah. Like it really, when you're in that first 8 months as a parent, and you were the sole caregiver at the time, because I was working, you really like don't have any time to yourself. Time to yourself feels foreign.
There was none, yeah.
And like for you, that even though it was raining, like I guess you didn't feel sad that it was raining. It was more of like, wow, I just haven't experienced rain. Like I'm usually indoors.
It was more than that. It was just I felt numb. I felt like I was on autopilot, like in the movie Click with Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
And he hits a button and he's like, oh, I gotta skip this part, right? And the person's on autopilot. For so long, I felt like I didn't exist. I felt like I was, and so feeling the rain was almost like, oh wow, like I'm here.
Yeah,
like I can feel. I'm numb on the inside, but I was like, I don't know. It was a really dark time. And, it lasted a long time.
Do you think there were quick saves you could have done? Well, I guess there probably definitely would have been because you didn't know you had ADHD at that moment in time. Yeah. So I imagine there was just like your mindset was not in the whole focus of like, what can I do to prepare myself? It was more of just like, I'm flying by the seat of my pants and this is a whole new experience. And then it just happened. The game crash happened.
Yeah, I think it was just like between the pregnancy, labor, and birth, all of that was traumatic and is in and of itself. But like the postpartum aspect, like I should have left the house. I should have stayed at my mom's or your mom's like for a week at a time. Like I should have not isolated myself for so long. And even, I mean, I had my dad close by. He was like 4 blocks away, but even he wasn't around or available. He had other stuff going on, so I didn't really have a friend or person to be with me. And so that's a mistake that I now know, like, hey, like if you're ever going through something and you're feeling some type of way, like reach out and let people know. Just like tell them I'm not okay, like I'm feeling X, Y, and Z, like what do you suggest? Like I didn't have a therapist at the time either. So that was another quick save I ignored. Another, if you watch the previous episode, like shield that I ignored. I didn't have the necessary things to make me feel like I was okay. So when you ignore it and you're just like, I'm just going to go through postpartum and everything's fine and I'm going to be in denial and I don't need to actually do things to help me get out of it, like then it's going to spiral.
It's a good lesson. I think another game crash that we all kind of experienced collectively as a world was COVID. That was like a game crash no one expected. And I know that, I mean, that was the game crash that really set us into this whole new adventure of like trying to understand each other, why we were irking each other, which then led to the couples counseling, which then led to the diagnosis. Like
it was kind of like we hit new game.
Yeah.
That was like, it was like, oh, we crashed? All right.
Yeah.
New game.
But now, like, I think I would hope that if, inevitably when that other game crash happens in whatever form that is, me and you will at least have some more tools in our toolkit to try to handle it and to have these quick saves built up. So.
And not like, just like let it tumble the Jenga tower, right? Just like, listen, the last peg got pushed out from the bottom of us, but is the tower still up? How can we make sure that it stays up? I'm not saying to be like happy all the time and have a positive mindset, which is great. There's so many people that are like, be positive, but there's such a thing as like toxic positivity, meaning like you're just ignoring your natural, like God-given emotions. Yeah. There is a reason why there are chemicals in your brain that give you happiness, sadness, anger, whatever that have you. So I think to ignore your certain emotions and to focus on others is a disservice to you as a human being.
That's really good. Before we wrap up, there was one other quick save that I thought was really interesting, and I think it's ADHD specific, which you were telling me is called the DOPA menu.
Yeah.
And I think
forgot about that.
I think that's a cool way we can end this. Just kind of explain like What's a dopa menu? How can you use it as like a way to quick save?
It's such an interesting like way to say it's like the dopa menu. But
it sounds cool.
It's dopamine, but dopa menu. And there's a lot of different people in like the ADHD community that have like used this term. And basically it's a menu of things that bring dopamine to your life. And because of ADHD, decision fatigue, or sometimes you just like really are in a lull and you just like have those numb moments, it's hard to think. And so what you can do is when you create this dopa menu, it could have multiple things that you enjoy on it. So something like walk for 10 minutes, go to the park, but that could be where it's like appetizers, entrees, right? So like appetizers are things on the dopa menu that are shorter amount of time that you can do for a quick little appetizer, right? So like that would be a 10-minute walk. That would be, a
word game or something short.
Something short. I love that you say word game.
That would be for me. That would be my dopa menu short.
For example, like what would be on mine was the other day, my heart was racing. I was having severe anxiety. I grabbed my iPad and I did my coloring game. And so it basically like, I just tap and I'm coloring. I'm doing digital coloring on there. And that calmed my heart rate and I was able to calm down. But that's just like something that you would put on there, like different things that you enjoy. And if it's a shorter amount of time, put it in the appetizers, and then the entrees are just something a little bit more big, right? So like I want to go on a trip. I want to take a class, right? So like,
that's good.
Like so different things that you'd be like, okay, like what am I going to do? I'm going to go to that yoga session. I'm going to go to, the park and do a volunteering race or something. I don't know, just things that are a little bit more time, but they'll bring you joy. Name them and write them down, kind of like a vision board. Just know yourself more, because the more you know, then the easier it is when you're having that lull, because you just grab it and you're like, okay, I'm feeling like garbage today. Oh, okay, I'll just pick this. It's in front of my face. Like with ADHD, it's out of sight, out of mind. Put it in your sight.
Yeah.
So that you can think about it.
I honestly think that could work.
That'd be good for you too.
It could work for even non-ADHD people now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, specifically for ADHD, out of sight, out of mind, that's huge. So that's a cool quick save. I like that. Well, I think that wraps up today's episode.
Yeah, sounds good.
So we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode.
You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at ADHD and Me Podcast.
Our theme song is by @It'sOfBoth.
New episodes every Wednesday.
We will see you there, or we will see you on another time.